Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to install a 4-pin wiring kit so you can pull a 4-pin trailer on my 1999 Toyota 4Runner. Go ahead and start by opening the trunk. And some of you might think you're handy like me, and originally I just bought this piece, which is just the 4-pin, but I couldn't get this to work. I was able to get the left turn signal to work, the right turn signal to work, and the ground. But when it comes to the tail lights and the brake lights, that's the same bulb. And that same bulb has two different wires going to it. It's 12 and 13 volts. And so the only way I could think I could get that to work is by using a relay or some sort of diode so we couldn't backfeed the current. And like I said, since on the 4Runner, the brake light and the tail light is the same thing. For example, the tail lights are always on, but when you step on the brake, that same bulb gets brighter. Like I said, there's two wires. One is a 12 volt, and that's just always on. But then when you press the brakes, that one shuts off, and the 13 volt kicks on. I didn't want to bridge those two because that could backfeed current, because I don't know how it's designed in the mastering wiring harness. And I didn't want to pop any fuses or lose any trailer lights down a canyon. So as I said, I wouldn't recommend simply just trying to wire in a 4-pin. It might be possible, but I couldn't get it to work and all my connections kind of sucked. I was just using T-taps, so I would recommend buying this kit here. So this here is a Hopkins wiring kit. It's number 43415. And this is a direct plug and play. And the reason I didn't want to buy this, because online it looked super cheap, like the little module it comes with. But after unboxing it and taking a look at it, it seems very heavy duty, secure, watertight for the most part. So let's go ahead and use this. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you need a Phillips screwdriver, and there's going to be 5 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead and remove those. So with that done, you'll have 5 of these screws. So next you'll want to remove this plastic piece. Start from the left to right and simply just pull up. There's going to be 3 tabs. And now that that's out of the way, go ahead and remove these 2 Phillips screws. There's one here on the left and one here on the right. So completely back those out and then pull off these plastic pieces. And to get this piece out, you actually have to slide it this way. And now that that piece is out, you can gently grab here from the bottom and you're going to pull it out. You'll hear it pop. And if you've never worked on a Toyota or Lexus, as you can see, there's these white tabs here. They're used for molding pieces. That's what that popping sound was. Now you're going to go ahead and pry your panel back. As you can see here, there's our electrical connection. All right, then looking at this device, it's very simple. As you can see, there's this end where the trailer lights will come out of the vehicle. The reason they have it like this is so you can feed it through the tight space and then plug it in. And on this side, this is where we're going to tap into the OEM wiring harness. Cool thing about this kit, it's direct plug and play, so there's no T-taps or soldering. So let's go ahead and start on the left side. So that's going to be this long yellow wire. And so what we do is we follow it all the way to the end of the harness, and they give us this piece here. And so basically, right now in your vehicle, these 2 connections are plugged together. We're going to unplug the taillight, and we're basically just going to run this in parallel with it. So the OEM one will plug into here, and then our new one will plug into the other side of the OEM one. And the way that clip works in there, it's kind of hard to see, so I'm showing you on this one, but there's a little push tab you push down, and then you pull it out of the socket. So now looking in there, I squished the tab out already, and you pull that out like that. And let's go back in there and plug this in. You can't mess it up unless you plug these ones in together into themselves. That doesn't make any sense. So let's go ahead and take the male to female. Here, snap. And as you can see, the female end is mounted to the frame just with a little plastic clip. Let's go ahead and plug this piece in. So this is our new wiring harness to our existing OEM harness. All right, then with our yellow wire, we want to go ahead and run it underneath this panel. We don't want to run it to the side because that's going to seal to the side of the car. And then you'll notice here that our white clip actually stayed in the frame instead of to the panel. So I need to pull that out, slide that back in there, and then go ahead and just gently tap this down with a rubber mallet or your hand. If you look in there, there's going to be 3 of those white clips, so just make sure they're all on there. There's one right here. There is one all the way back there. You can kind of see it. And then there's one right here. And here I have the clips lined up in the hole. It's kind of hard to see. And you gently just tap it down. Now let's go ahead and pull our yellow wire a little tight, pull out a bunch of the slack and go ahead and tuck it. And then to run this wire, all you want to do is make sure it's under the carpet. And then some people like to have it here. I like to put it back a little farther just because there's usually lots of water and dirt here. So when popping this clip back in, just make sure that the wire is running behind each of these clips. So I want to push that back a little, push that back, so on and so forth. Then we're gonna run it up and under here. If we look at our kit here I have these three, and we want to go ahead, and this is for the tail lights and the brake lights, as well as the turn signal. We're gonna do the same exact thing, just unplug the OEM harness and plug these two ends in. So here you have to push in on the clip on top and then pull it straight out. Now that we've disconnected the OEM harness, let's plug in our Y jack. As you can see there, that's now wired in parallel. Now looking at our device, this white wire here is the ground, and this has a little eyelet loop on it. So if you look in here to the left, there's this 10 or 12 millimeter bolt here. As you can see, there's already 2 or 3 grounds going to that. So you're gonna wanna undo that bolt, make sure not to lose those 2 eyelets, or else your brake lights and your tail lights won't be grounded. And you wanna add this third one that came with the kit. And it turns out it is a 10 millimeter bolt here. So go ahead and put a small ratchet or wrench on there, that would be better, and crack that loose and take it out. Now that that bolt is out, as you can see, there were 2 grounds for the car. This one's for the tail light, this one's for some other system. So make sure to put those back on. And then we also need to add this third eyelet. So we're just gonna stack the 3 together and put the bolt back in. As you can see, I have the 3 eyelets on there. Now I just need to tighten down the bolt so that it smashes all those so we get a good solid ground. And then just try to separate them 33 degrees apart, just because you don't want to have the 2 like metal pieces that are thick overlapping or get smashed or damaged. So just try to separate them out into like a peace sign and then just tighten that down. All right, now that bolt is tightened down, and just make sure you have all 3 ground wires on there. All right, now if you look at your device, as you can see, we have the 4 wires coming out to here. So we want to grab the other part of our kit and plug it into here. All right, now I've grabbed the other end of our kit. These 2 just go together. So as you can see, you'll want to plug this into here, but not quite yet, because we need to feed it through a hole in the bumper. Then while we're here, it also came with this dust cap. Let's go ahead and put that on, just so we don't get dust in. 4-pin plug when it's not in use. All right, then if you look right here, there's this little dust cap. So you just take a flathead screwdriver, wedge it in there, go ahead and pry this piece out. As you can see, that exposes a hole that we're going to use to feed that cable through. And with this piece, also just take a Phillips screwdriver and just punch a hole straight through it. That way we can feed the wires back through this and put that cap on there. It's not mandatory, but it does help keep out water, dust, and dirt. We now want to feed this piece through the bumper so we can plug it into our little box. So let me show you where the hole is. So here's the exhaust, and I'm here on the passenger side. Here I have my tow hitch. So you come to where the spare tire is. And then if you look directly up here, there's a little square cutout. One thing that helps is have a flashlight and someone hold it from the other side. Let's go ahead and pull it through. So now that wire is in this hole, so we just need to reach in there. It's somewhere over here. You need to pull it this way, up and out. Now I've got the wire to come up and out of that hole. I'm gonna go ahead and put it through here, and pop that back into place. With that seated securely, once again, we don't want to run it on the edge. We want to run it back in here. So let's go ahead and connect the wire that goes out to the 4-pin trailer and connect it to our box. There, so we now have our left, which is on the left side, our right, which is on the right side, our tail light, which is just always on, our brake light, which is the same exact wire, and our white ground. So now we want to gently bundle this up, go ahead and stuff it in this right quarter panel. All right, now we've put all the wires in here as well as the black box. I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie it up, clean it up, and let's go ahead and pop our panel back into place. So let's go ahead and put this back in. You just start over here and slide it in. Then we wanna put the screw back in. And if you remember, there's 2 different types of screws. So the ones that go into these have this little washer. And don't tighten it very tight, or you could strip it out. Just like that. Just like that, that's tightened down. Now let's go ahead and put this piece back in. Remember to have the yellow wire on the opposite side just to keep it away. And this does go a certain way. One thing I forgot to note and do before putting this quarter panel, drilling it back down, hitting in the little rivets, is you want to tuck your carpet in and under. All right, then this piece has a little groove that goes towards the rear of the vehicle. So go ahead and put it down. Line up the little holes in the carpet because that's where these pins go. And to get this in, gently just hammer it down with a rubber mallet or your fist. And then here on the end, there was a little slit that needs to line up. As you can see it right there, go ahead and make sure that goes into there. And then go ahead and put the 5 screws back in. And let's go ahead and test the system. So one way you could test is by using an actual trailer, plugging it in, just having a friend make sure all your stuff works. But it's important to test everything. So these are your tail lights and your brake lights. Like I said, it's the same bulb. The tail lights are always on. When you press the brakes, the bulb just gets brighter. One of these is your reverse lights, which the trailer won't have reverse lights for a 4-pin. And then one of them is your turn signal. And if you don't have someone here to test it or a trailer, you can also use a multimeter or a test light. I'll show you how to do it with a multimeter. So the way to test this with a multimeter, since we're working with DC power and the system never gets more than 13 volts, go ahead and set the multimeter to voltage, DC. And then we want to set it to 20 since we'll never have a peak of more than 20 volts. Like I said, the peak is about 13 volts. Then go ahead and take the plug we just wired in. And we can test, we know that our yellow is going to be our turn signal. So you can put the red, which is the positive end, into there. And then remember, our white is our ground. So go ahead and just touch that to there, or even kind of shove it in there. Just make sure you have good contacts. And as you can see, there's no voltage on the multimeter. But I should turn on the signal. We should see a pulsate and a positive voltage. So I have the left turn signal on. And as you can see, that's fluctuating between 0 and 8 volts. So that looks correct to me. Now let's go ahead and test our right turn signal. So once again, the white goes to the black, which is the ground. So we need to have a ground so that the current can travel. And then the turn signal for the right is going to be this green wire. So go ahead and put your positive probe in there. Right now my left signal is on. So that's going to read 0. Let's go signal right. As you can see there, we're ranging from 0 to about 9 volts. And just visually looking at it, the turn signal is on. And we know that our white wire is good because it's grounded. For example, right now we're signaling right, but if the ground were bad, as you can see, we're not going to get any reading on the multimeter because maybe you're touching here, but maybe the ground where we connected that little eyelet isn't grounded to the frame of the vehicle, so you wouldn't get any reading on the multimeter. So we know that our white ground cable is good. Then lastly, we want to test the tail lights and the brake lights. So as I said before, the tail lights are on. To do that on the dash, you just go click, click twice. Car does not have to be on. Let's go ahead and test that. So right now we should be getting 0 on the multimeter since we're still testing for the right signal. But now to test for the tail lights, obviously we have our black to our ground, which is our white cable. Then we have our red positive probe, which is going to be this, I believe that's a brown color, so the second one here. That should say about 12 volts. So as you can see, the tail lights are good. And then if we have someone step on the brake, this should jump up to around 12 or 13 volts. So as you can see, I have someone stepping on the brake light right now. Like I said, it's the same bulb as the tail light. And here on the multimeter, it only looks like it jumped up just like half a volt, but we do know that it's functioning. All right, now that we have this here, obviously you don't want this to drag. So the kit came with some zip ties. The zip ties were very weak, so I'd go down to Harbor Freight, grab some heavy duty zip ties, and I would just recommend zip tying it to here, like this bar. And you probably want to have about a foot of slack, depending on what trailer you have. And worst case scenario, you can always pull out a little slack if you have to. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.